G'day Internet and welcome to River City Ransom Underground. My name is Andrew Russell and I'm the lead programmer on River City Ransom Underground. And in this show we're going to talk a little bit about some of the features in the River City Ransom Underground engine. So today we're going to have a little talk about shadows. So let's bring up the game. So you'll notice here we have Alex, and he's standing on this lovely car. We're kind of using the boiler room as a bit of a showroom today. And Glenn looks like he's trying to make a sale, but Alex wants to, make sure the vehicle is sturdy and stand the, grueling pressures of combat and a few jumps. So you'll notice that underneath Alex is this shadow, and I can bring Glenn up on top, and he wants to demonstrate some features. So there's a shadow per character. And if I jump over here, and if I get, let's say, Glenn to jump up, you can see a little bit of a shadow comes up on the side of the car here, just where he's about to land. If you were to move over a bit, and then the same goes for Alex. If Alex jumps, you'll see that a little bit of a shadow comes up here, just where he is to the side. So if I come up here, that's where he's going to land. And so the shadow plays a sort of important gameplay role, because it tells you where your character is in 3D space, because it is a bit of a 3D game, but with a 2D sort of 2D art, and so you need some kind of way to gauge your depth or your height in the scene. So that's what the shadow looks like in the game. And if I come over here, in fact, let's bring up the wonderful whiteboard, and I'm hoping that my graphics tablet is going to behave itself this time. So let's draw ourselves a nice green car like we had before. So it looks a bit like this, and there's a bleak there, there's a bleak there, and obviously this is why they hired someone else to do. That's not even the right direction. No, I'm going to start again. Let's start that car again. That's not a great car. Let's do that. Okay, let's try this again. Let's bring up the paintbrush. And so the car looks like this. Do 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 do. And it's probably got wheels or something, but let's ignore those for now. So if we've got a character and we want him to stand on the car, and we've been talking about height maps, and so we could just use the height map to say, well, that is about where he is over the object. And that's more or less what we do, but we come into a bit of a conundrum when we come over to the side. So if we have a character and he's jumped up here and he's next to the object, and we want to draw a shadow, we're going to do a height query into the physics system, and we're going to go from here, and we're going to go down, 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 down. We're going to look at the value of the height map at this position, and it's going to say it's 0. And that's obviously a huge problem, because our shadow is going to end up down here, which is not where we want it. We want the shadow to actually appear up here, because we want that little bit on the edge, like I showed you before in the game, to show up and show sort of where you are in 3D space and where you could land if you could jump. So if I jump and pause, you can see that there is now a tiny bit of shadow here, even though if he just drops, he is actually above the ground. So the way we do this, the way we resolve this problem, is that we create a second kind of height map, which is called the shadow height map. And it looks like this for this bit, and it looks like this, but rather than stopping here, let's not stop there. Let's go all the way out to the edge. And it looks the same at the front. So if we come to here, we actually go all the way out to the edge of the physical height map. And what that ends up doing is, if we then project that down onto a graphical representation of the data, you know, our height map is a rectangular object, as we mentioned in previous episodes, that's filled up with pixel data. So there's a whole lot of pixels, pixels, and each little value, each little square in this has a different height. And what happens is, what we've done is we've basically taken this bit of height map and we've extended it out to the end. So rather than ending here, it actually comes right up to the edge of the data here. So what happens then is, if we say let's do it on the back where we've got it before. So if we have the data stops there, normally if it stops here normally and it's filled in here, we want to fill it all the way to the edge here. And then when this guy runs his query, he's going to grab some data from here. And that's going to say, because we filled it out, it's going to say, oh look, I'm up here at, you know, y equals something. Let's say the car is 40 high, I don't remember, I think it's 38. And furthermore, what we can do is, because this is now a rectangle, we fill it all the way to the edges. Say he's standing right there, he's like right at the front here. So we might end up wanting to query the height here, which is outside the bounds. So all we have to do then is we just walk that query back to the edge and query this point here. And because we filled it, we get the height at this edge. And so the upshot of that is that the shadow now thinks it's this height here, this height that's the same height as the rest of it. Like, this is now all, wrong color, this is now all the same height, except of course there's a small difference here where the windscreen is, where it goes down a bit. But this is all the values in this height map are non-zero. They're all heights from the surface of the top of the car. So another way to think about that, I like to use a diagram, which is like say we have a sphere, it's like that. And the height map basically says, you know, this is the height of the sphere, and everything else is, you know, everything else is zero. Whereas if we want a shadow height map, we have the sphere like that, and the top of it is the same, but the edges of it form like a square, it's kind of like wrapping a blanket over it that doesn't go below any other height. So the shadow height map is there, and it actually, logically, even though we don't have data for it because we don't need to, because we bring our queries into the edge like that, it logically extends out to infinity and tells you the height of an object at the edge of an object. So the height, if we do a query here, is the same as the height if we do a query here, which is the same if we're right on it, but and then once we're actually on the object itself, we actually get the real height. So let me show you what that looks like in the game first. So I'm going to tab over. So there's our regular physics height map. There's our height map for objects, and that is, I think that's teleporters or something. And here is the shadow height map. And you see, if I hold down control, you can see that the shape of this is, you know, it's a rectangle. If I turn on flat mode, you can see now this is the car. This is the car in sort of the 3D voxel rendering. And if I flatten it, this is the car in the flat mode, and you can see that's a rectangle. So that is the area of the data, and any query that happens outside this area just gets projected down into that area to ensure that we're getting values from the edge of the object. So yeah, if I come over to the editor, let's talk about how this works in the editor. So we've got the shadow mask, and we'll talk about that in a second. So if I hit edit height map, I've already got that up, voxels up. So here you can see it here, and we got the flat mode. So this is the data that's in the height map, and it's definitely a rectangle. Whereas if I showed off the data that's in the height map for this one, just the regular, this is the physics height map. If I flatten that, you can see that it's not like the data is a rectangle, but there's holes on either edge, so you can't see the edge of the rectangle. So the way that we create this, we have 3 special height map instructions. So you can manually create a shadow height map, and some objects just have a flat top surface when you cut off the edges. Like if I were to draw, not that one, this one, if I were to draw, say, a arcade cabinet, you know, once we do a height map, it's all just, yeah, there goes the graphics tablet again. That's unfortunate. Here we go. It's all just that height, and we've extended it out, you know, to infinity. I think it might be the software, the GIMP, that's causing that problem, rather than possibly it's because my mouse is just shifting around. So let's try and convince it that I'm actually using the tab. So we've sent that out to infinity. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. I'll sort it out later. So that is the shadow height map. So we've got the way we do this, create from oblique, create extended oblique from base. So in this particular object, that doesn't do anything because it is filled out to the side. No, I didn't need that one. That was from last episode. So if we have an object, say, that was maybe this shape, and it had like a thing that goes inwards, and so what we want to do, if we wanted to do a shadow query here, say we're jumping up to, you know, here, we still want the query to say that the edge of this object is at this height here, same height here. And so create from extended oblique takes the oblique direction and just projects the data that's here into any holes. So it just fills that up there. So you've got a filled section. So if we have that same object like that and like that, this actually does, you can select the direction of the oblique projection. You saw that was an option in the editor before. Oblique left was the selection there. So that actually does the extension in this direction when it fills in, just in case there's any slope. For example, there is a slope in the car, but there's no holes. So the car has a slope. So we want to make sure that when we do that filling, it fills in the left oblique projection. And then we have fill left and fill right. So fill left and fill right, and what that does is it then fills in the opposite direction. It goes, right, well there's zero data, there's like zeros in the data there, so we're going to fill that in. We're going to go, in fact I'll animate that kind of, it will go boom 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 and fill that to there. And we'll see there's zeros here, and we'll go boom 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 boom, and we'll fill that to there. And so what that means is most of the time, for the vast majority of our objects, we actually don't need to manually sit and create the shadow height map. It's just a modification of the existing one. And then finally, let's talk about the mask. So we've got the shadow mask, and it's a shadow mask, so normally it doesn't appear. And I believe it is toggle shadow receiver. There we go. It's not a voxel. I don't think there's an option to change that. Yeah, there's a bug in the editor because I can't change the opacity. Point is that it's like it's a graphic like anything else, but we render that differently. So it's white in the sort of the editor. Is the underlying graphic is white, but what we do then is we use a pixel shader that we've set up to mask off that section. So the end result is, and you can definitely see it here. You'll notice that. Can I move that out of the way? Yeah. You'll notice that there's actually a sort of stippling effect here for the windscreen, so the shadow doesn't end up quite so dark on the windscreen. And if I bring that back into the game, turn off that, and I jump our daring customer up onto the windscreen, you can see that there's a stippling effect here. So that just shows that that's how we mask off where we want the shadow to appear. Because we obviously, if we're off the side here, we don't want a shadow to appear under his foot that's not actually over the car. And so that's how our shadowing system works. And then I think finally, let me just, for the sake of completeness, I've got to look at my menu here because I can't remember the draw shadow receiver mask is H. So yeah, you can see there I can turn the shadow receiver masks on and off, and you can visually see that that's where the shadow receiver mask is. So yes, that's how shadows work in River City Ransom Underground. It's basically just an extension of our height map system. So once again, thank you for watching, and as per last time, we're not going to forget that if you would like to watch some more of these, you can go to my blog at andrewrussell.net. You can follow me on Twitter at _AndrewRussell. You can subscribe to me on YouTube, where you're probably already watching this video. And if you'd like to get updates about the game as well as these nice retweets of my own tweets about these videos, and you know, follow along with the game, and we'll let you know when it's done because it's coming along. Follow at River City Ransom on Twitter. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.